Good day, everyone. How is your day going? I hope you are good today. Good to be back to you. Um, there is something I forgot to inform you the last time. I had a little correction to make for your assignments. When you're asked to differentiate between something and another thing, you're asked to just state the difference. This is this and this is that. You don't have to start defining the two of them. Definition is different from differentiation. Differentiate, state the difference. This is blue and this is white. This is green and this is black. This is long, this goes up and this comes down. Something like that. Just pick out the major difference between the two of them, not just the definition. Okay, so let's go back to what we have today. We said we are going to go back to this literature review and take it all again. Chapter 2, Introduction, Review of Related Literature. That is literature, what we commonly call literature review. There is no doubt that the literature review is an important aspect of any research project. It's very, very important. In fact, before you start off any literature review, any research project, your literature review must be intact. You must have a wide knowledge. You must be able to make research and get a lot of information on what you're going to research about. So, as its name implies, literature review involves the collation of ideas, views, positions, and opinions expressed in the writings of recognized authorities, as well as findings of previous researchers in one's area of investigation. ISA 2003. It's a collation of ideas, different ideas from different people, added to your own ideas, views, positions, opinions. What are their opinions about this particular topic? So what others have worked on, what they have written. And take note of this word, recognized authorities. So it's not just any human being that just worked on something. Some people may have done copy and paste and presented and all that. It has to be a recognized authority, as well as findings of previous researchers in one's area of investigation. So please really take note of this. The authority you're working on has to be a recognized one for you to be sure of what you're going to work on. Okay, similarly, Akim Wumiju 2000 describes the review of related literature as involving the systematic identification, location, and analysis of documents containing information related to the research problem. Systematic identification, location, and analysis, proper analysis of the documents. Don't just carry them like that and begin to work on them. No, you have to look at it very well, analyze it very well. The information you're getting, is it the proper information you need to work on your research? And they all have to be related to the research problem. They must be related to your research problem. Okay, it aims at providing information about what had already been done, how they were done, and with what results. Information about what had already been done, somebody else's work that you're improving on. It's been done already. How was it done? In what better way can you do your own? In what way can you do it better than that person? How was it done? And with what results? So these are the things you really need to consider in the course of your literature review. That's why you really need to take time to go deep into all those things and get enough information to do yours. One of the very early activities in any research investigation is the review of literature, related literature. By this, we refer to the body of research information relating to the present research. The body of research information relating to the present research. It has to be related to your present research. You don't pick any literature review and just dump it into your work. No, it has to be related to your research. All the necessary information needed to put the research in proper context once the research problem has been identified and formulated would derive from the literature review. Once you've gotten your research problem, you've identified it, it's literature review. Until this had been done, the research cannot proceed effectively, considering the great amount of information to be sought from a variety of sources, primary and secondary. There is no doubt that the literature review of related literature is a serious task, deserving an equally serious attention. It's a task that you need to give proper attention to. Literature review gathers a lot. It gathers a lot. Once you get your literature review done, half of the work is done. As a result of this, literature review has been considered as a systematic process that requires careful and perspective reading and attention to detail. Akim Wumiju, 2000. It's a systematic process that requires careful and perspective reading. You really need to read and understand what you're going to put into your work, and attention to detail. You need to pay attention to detail. You don't just read it all through like as if you're reading a novel. No, you need to pay attention to details because you have to pick in the right information into your own work. Remember, you're aiming at doing something better than is in existence. You're aiming at getting your work to be better than those particular places you're referring to as information. Okay, thus its goal is to determine what others have learned or done about similar research problems and to gather information relevant to the current research problem. The information you're going to gather must be relevant. If it's not relevant to your research problem, please overlook it. Go pay attention to the details of those ones that are really relevant to your research problems. The chapter 2 of the research project is usually devoted to it. That's why the entire chapter 2 is devoted to literature review. That's to tell you how very important it is. Basically, it serves 3 purposes, namely, to set the theoretical framework for the research project. To set the theoretical framework for the research project. Theoretically, you have to put it in proper shape, get all those information down before you begin to do the practical aspect of it. To establish the present research efforts within the mainstream of other related ones previously conducted. To establish the present research efforts within the mainstream of other ones that have been done before. 3. To determine the state of the art in that particular area of study. To determine the state of the art in that particular area. That is the most recent stage. The recent putting in the newest technology. Technology keeps improving and improving, so you have to determine the newest one, the state of the art in that particular area of study. It's not just as it has always been. Look for the newest, the most recent stage where it is right now, as at the moment you're working, the newest technology, and apply it to that. These are all the things that will make your work much better than the previous work that has been done. It's all part of adding to the knowledge of what has been in existence. Okay, components of literature review. You have A, the conceptual framework, the theoretical review, and the empirical review. Components of literature review. The components of literature review. Like we said, it has 3 components. You have the conceptual framework, the theoretical, and the empirical review. Okay. How to determine the quality of literature review. To determine the quality of literature review on any given topic, it is necessary to provide answers to the following questions in order to determine the quality of any literature review. 1. How wide otherwise is the scope of the literature reviewed? We've talked about scope before. How wide is that scope? 2. How up to date are the materials or studies reviewed? You don't have to go to outdated things. Like we talked about technology. Technology keeps improving. So you have to look at the materials, or the materials you're reviewing. How up to date are they? 3. How relevant are the materials reviewed to the subject of the present investigation? The materials have to be relevant. It has to be relevant to your work. If they are not relevant, forget it, please. Don't just add to increase the number of pages you have in your literature review. No, you have to focus on the materials that are relevant to the subject you're working on. 4. How well organized is the entire literature review? Is it well organized? 5. Has it such things as introduction, subheadings, summary, and appraisal of reviewed literature? 6. Is it possible to present a summary of the entire review in a paragraph of few sentences? 1. How wide is the scope? Talk about the scope. 2. How up to date is it? 3. How relevant are the materials reviewed? Are they relevant to your work? 4. How well organized is the entire literature review? How well organized is it? And 5. Has it such things as introduction, subheadings, summary, and appraisal of reviewed literature? 6. Is it possible to present a summary of the entire literature review in a paragraph of few sentences, not telling all the long stories? The requirements of a good literature review. To be able to carry out a good work of literature review, one is expected to demonstrate the following abilities. To be able to carry out a good work of literature review, one is expected to demonstrate the following abilities. These are the requirements of a good literature review. Ability to find relevant sources quickly. Ability to find relevant sources quickly. Are you able to get those sources within a specific time frame? 2. The ability to peruse so many sources quickly. You have to go through them. You don't just jump and dump. You have to go through those sources you're getting. Are you able to peruse them very quickly? The ability to identify for further use all relevant materials contained in the sources perused. Are you able to identify them for further use? 4. The ability to interpret and organize information accumulated from the various sources consulted. So it's not just getting the information, your ability to interpret them and organize them. So these are the requirements for a good literature review. If you want to have a perfect literature review, you have to have all those requirements. Find relevant sources, not just finding them, but finding them quickly. And when you get them, being able to peruse them. The ability to also identify for further use all those materials you have gotten. The ability to interpret also and organize information accumulated from the various sources consulted. This interpretation is very, very important. If you're not able to interpret, then what you have gotten is more or less useless. So you should be able to interpret them and organize them very well. Okay, to this end, Osuala 1993 identified 7 specific procedures as the means by which a good literature review can be carried out successfully. 7 specific procedures. 1. Getting a clear picture of the subject under investigation. Let's take down these procedures. Procedures for carrying out a good literature review. Procedures for carrying out a good literature review. 1. Getting a clear picture of the subject under investigation. You have to have a clear picture of your subject that you're investigating. Clear picture of the subject under investigation. Okay. The second one is orientating oneself towards the empirical research done in the broad area in which the problem lies. Orientation. Or let me call it proper orientation. Proper orientation. Okay. 3. demonstrating a good ability of reading at a high rate of speed. You know, where your speed in reading, not just reading, understanding too. You're being able to read and understand at a very high rate, because your literature review, it really requires a lot. If you have a slow reading speed, it's going to affect you. So you have to demonstrate a good ability of reading at a high speed. I wish to add reading and understanding at a high speed. Reading and understanding at a high speed. Okay. Four, searching for library sources in a systematic and thorough manner. It's not something you do in a hurry. You need to search them out in a systematic and thorough manner. Search them thoroughly. Library sources, searching out library sources in a systematic and thorough manner. Thorough manner. Then 5, taking notes systematically in the light of such criteria as uniformity, accuracy, and ease of assembly. Taking notes systematically in the light of such area as uniformity. It has to be uniform, accuracy, and ease of assembly. Let me just call it proper taking of notes accurately and uniformly, and with ease of assembly. Okay. Then the 6th one is taking as complete notes as he might need. Taking as complete notes as he might need. Complete notes. 6. Taking complete notes. Then the 7th one, recording references on 3x5 cards, each carrying labels of topic or topics. Recording references, you need to work with references. Recording them on 3x5 cards, each card carrying labels of topics or of topic or topics. Recording references on 3x5 cards. With topic or topics on it. Okay. Opeke 1995, quoting from Castella and Hisler 1977, enumerated the functions of a good literature review to include the following. The before we go to these functions, I want you to digest this one properly. Let's go to these procedures again. Getting a clear picture of the subject under investigation. You need to have a clear picture of the subject under investigation. Even if you don't have all the details you need to have a clear picture. That will enable you to be able to get the information you need for your work. Orientating oneself towards the empirical research done in the broad area in which the problem lies. There's a broader area where the problem lies. You'll be able to orientate yourself, and that will help you to fish out the exact ones that you need. 3. Demonstrating a good ability of reading at a high rate of speed. You need to be able to read, and like I said, not just reading, understanding as you're reading at a very high rate. Your speed rate of reading must be very high. Your rate of understanding must be very high, because you're the one fishing out the information you get. You're the one actually writing your literature review. 4. Searching for library sources in a systematic and thorough manner. Systematic and thorough manner. You need to search out the library sources very well so that you pick the right ones. References, where you're picking out references, you need to pick them out in details, proper details. 5. Taking notes systematically in the light of such criteria as uniformity. As you're taking your notes, it has to be in uniformity, in accuracy, and ease of assembly. So this literature review is very, very sensitive. Very sensitive. The success of your work will determine on how well you have done your literature review, apart from the practical aspects of your work. 6. Taking as complete notes as he might need. You need to take complete notes too. 7. Recording references on 3x5 cards. Each card carrying labels of topic or topics. Okay, now let's go to the functions of a good literature review. Functions of a good literature review. Let's take it down. Functions of a good literature review. 1. To study the history of the problem. You need to know about the history of that particular problem. You don't just jump into it. You need to know something about things, a lot of things about that particular problem. So 1 is to study the history of the problem. Study the history of the problem. When you know about the history of the problem, it will really help you a lot. 2. To aid in the selection of investigative procedure, that is methodology. To aid in the selection of investigative procedure. To aid in the selection of investigative procedure, that is methodology. Methodology. 3. To become familiar with the theoretical background of the problem. This familiarity is very important. You need to be very familiar with the theoretical background. As you're doing your practical work, you need to really have this familiarity with the theoretical background of the problem. Then we go to number 4, to assess the merits of previous studies. Like we said, you don't just carry them and download into your work. You need to assess the merits, that is the advantages of the previous studies. So it's not every single thing you pick out. What are the advantages? How are they going to be helpful to your own work? You assess the merits of these previous studies. Assess the merits Five, that is E, to avoid unintended duplication. To avoid unintended duplication. Avoid unintended duplication. That's actually why you need to put in more time and go through your work very well, so that you don't begin to duplicate things anyhow. Unintended, of course, no duplication will be intended. None will be intentional. So you need to really go deep into details of what you're writing down to make sure that you don't have any duplication. 6, that is F, to justify the selection of the problem. To justify the selection of the problem. Justify the selection of the problem. Okay, so these are functions of a good literature review. You study the history, know something about the history. You aid in the selection of investigative procedure, that's the methodology. The literature review is supposed to aid, to help out in the methodology. That's where you must have started doing the practical aspect of it. The literature review will help you. The knowledge you have there is going to help you in investigative procedure. To become familiar with the theoretical background of the problem, you get to know, become familiar, get to know much about that background. That's what the literature review actually helps you to do. To assess the merits of previous studies, the merits or advantages, how advantageous are they to you, the merits of the previous studies. To avoid unintended duplication. Literature review is supposed to actually help you to avoid these duplications. F, to justify the selection of the problem. Okay, by and large, a good literature review enables the researcher to understand previous studies. By the time you get all the information you need from all those studies, it helps you to understand them properly. So a good literature review enables you to understand those studies much better and to determine the adequacy or otherwise of their design and methodology, and to sharpen his own research focus. So it really helps you out to make your own work better. Necessary preparations for doing a good literature review. The need to spend time to prepare for a good literature review is born out of the fact that the initial time spent will save one's time in the long run. Hence, before starting on literature review, you are advised to do the following. Okay, now the reason you need to spend time to prepare this literature review is that it will save your time in the long run. You wouldn't have to go back to start looking for information that you would have actually gotten initially. You wouldn't have to run the risk of starting your literature review afresh. So it's better for you to spend that time initially to get the proper information, the right information you need, and get a proper literature review. To be better that way than to run the risk of going back to make corrections that you would have actually avoided initially. So the need to spend this time to prepare for a good literature review is born out of the fact that the initial time spent will not be a waste. The initial time spent will save your time in the long run. Once you get your literature review properly done, you won't have to waste time in doing the rest of the work. Hence, before starting on literature review, you are advised to do the following. Necessary preparations. Let's take it down. Necessary preparations for a good literature review. One, find out what references are available. Find out what references are available. Find out available references. Two, where and when they could be found. Where and when they could be found. These are, you need all those things. Where and when they could be found. Where and when they could be found. Not just getting the references. You need to know where and when they can be. You need to know where and when they can be found, where you can get them, and at the right time when you can get them. 3, get familiar with library sources within your vicinity. You need to get familiar with those. You need to know the right sources to get your information. Get familiar with library sources. Familiarity with library sources within the vicinity. Okay, the next one is know the rules and regulations guiding the use of the library. You know, library is not a place you just go walk into and do anything you want to do and get out. You need to know that every library, every standard library has rules and regulations. So you need to know the rules and regulations guiding the use of the library. Know the rules and regulations guiding the use of the library. Okay, that's number 4. 5, Make a list of keywords relating to your research topic so as to guide your literature search. Make a list of keywords. Every research topic has keywords, so you make a list of keywords relating to your research topics so as to guide your literature search. List of keywords relating to the topic. Keywords. Okay. So as usual, let's take it again. Firstly, you find out what references are available for your work. 2, you find out where you can get them and when you can get them. 3, you get familiar with library sources within your vicinity. Get to know the library sources within your vicinity and get familiar with them. 4, when you get familiar with those library sources, you need to know the rules and regulations guiding the use of the library. 5, you make a list of keywords relating to your research topic so as to guide your literature search. Those keywords will help you. It will help you to get your search very quickly, to do your work. As you're searching, it will help you to do your work in a faster way since you already have your keywords. Guidelines for carrying out a good literature review. The guidelines: read all notes made during your search exercise so as to refresh your memory and get rid of some words that may no longer seem sufficiently related to your study. Nobody is a computer. You need to go back and read in order to remind yourself of what you've read before. That's why I said reread all notes made during your search exercise so as to refresh your memory. You're a human being, so you need to refresh your memory on those things and get rid of some works that may no longer seem sufficiently related to your study. Those works that are no longer sufficiently related to the study, you just get rid of them. The following guidelines would help. Make an outline of all the materials you have consulted. Guidelines for carrying a good literature review. Let's take it down. Guidelines for carrying out a good literature review. 1. Make an outline of all the materials you have consulted. Make an outline of consulted materials. Make an outline of consulted materials. 2. Examine each of the materials with regards to your outline, such as to enable you sort out your references into appropriate piles. Examine each materials with regards to your outline, such as to enable you sort out your references into appropriate piles. References. into appropriate files. Okay, take a list of the references identified for a given subheading and examine the relationships and differences between them. You take a list of the references identified for a given subheading. The ones identified for a given subheading, you examine the relationships and differences between them. Examine the relationships and differences Examine the relationship and differences in references for a given subheading. Okay. that is 4. Ensure that the review flows in such a way that the references that are not too related to the problem are discussed first, and the most related ones come last. You start off with the references that are not too related to the problem. You discuss them first, and the most related comes last. Okay. Let's say in order of okay. References not too related comes first before the ones that are related. The ones that are much related, okay? Much related. Then 5, conclude your review with a brief summary of the literature and its implications for your own study. This is usually referred to as appraisal of the literature review. Conclude your review with a brief summary of the literature and its implication for your own study. And implications to your study. Okay. This is usually referred to as appraisal of the literature review. That's appraisal of the whole literature review. Then you come to things you must not do when reviewing literature. Things you must not do when reviewing literature. There are things you must do and there are things you must not do. Look at this. We have talked about the guidelines, and then we are now coming down to things that you shouldn't do. For you to achieve a good review of literature, related literature in your field, you need to take note of the following things when reviewing literature. 1. Do not be in a hurry to do literature review just to get started in your research projects. It's not something you rush into. I need to really finish the literature review and go into the next chapter. No, take your time. Be detailed in your literature review. Like I said, once you've gotten your literature review, you've done half of the work. So do not be in a hurry to do it. If you do, then you are more likely to overlook previous studies containing ideas that would have helped to improve your work. So nothing done in a hurry is ever perfect. You want to do a perfect work, don't be in a hurry with that literature review. B. Avoid the temptation to over-depend on secondary sources at the expense of primary sources. Primary sources are usually more important than secondary. So don't fall into the temptation of over-depending on those secondary ones at the expense of primary ones. Whereas the former refer to materials which contain accounts of events or phenomena by one who was not a witness to them, the latter contain direct accounts of events by the witness. You see why you need to attach more importance to the primary ones than to the secondary ones. The primary ones contain direct accounts. The person writing it is a witness. But the former, that's the secondary one, is just an account, refers to the materials that have been written, not necessarily by the person that is a witness to what happened. C. When reading research articles, avoid the temptation of concentrating on research findings at the expense of valuable information on methods, measures, etc. Don't be a lazy student. Don't concentrate on research findings, the things you've done that has been done before. Try to do your own too. Those ones are a kind of guide, but as they guide you, doesn't necessarily mean you have to concentrate more on them. Don't do that at the expense of valuable information on methods. This methodology is very important. Methods, measures, etc. D. Avoid being too broad. You want to get everything. Don't be too broad. And also, on the other hand, don't be too narrow. Too little of everything is bad. Too much of everything is bad. Don't be too broad. Don't be too narrow in your literature search, as both have obvious disadvantages. E. Ensure that the bibliographic data or references concerning the materials being reviewed are not wrongly copied. One letter alone can scatter everything. So ensure that you copy them properly. Be detailed. Otherwise, it becomes difficult, if not impossible, to locate the materials. So the data, the bibliographic data must be properly copied. Every slash should be there. Every dot should be there. Every alphabet, every letter, every single thing should be there. It should be properly copied. Because if you don't do that, it will become difficult, if not impossible, for you to locate those materials. So it's very, very important. Our references, we have Akim Umiju, JA 2000, EME 409 Educational Research Methods, External Studies Program, Ibadan, the Center for External Studies. So that is it for today. Next class, we should be going into the method proper. That is the research methodology. Nice being with you again today. I hope we are really getting these things properly. Like I promised, I'm going to give you an assignment anytime soon before our next class. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day. Bye.